The modern world does not carry half the science as ancient Indians did. Welcome to this explainer. I am so excited to be your guide today. Imagine we're walking side by side through the dusty, sun-baked plains of Delhi. We are about to unravel a 1600-year-old mystery that has literally left modern scientists scratching their heads. We're uncovering an absolute masterclass in metallurgy, one that pretty much defies everything we assume about the past.
Now, I know that quote sounds like a massive, bold claim. It directly challenges the standard timeline of technological progress we're all taught in school, right? But our sources today present this incredibly fascinating argument. They suggest that ancient engineering didn't just rival our modern capabilities, it might have actually surpassed them. It really makes you wonder if our modern world is indeed missing half the science that was completely understood centuries ago.
Okay, let's dive into this. Picture yourself standing right in the middle of the spectacular Qutub complex in Delhi. Right in front of you towers this massive, imposing structure. It's 7.21 meters high and it weighs over 6 tons. This is the famed Delhi Iron Pillar, and let me tell you, it is an absolute marvel of human engineering.
Looking up at this massive iron structure, you really have to ask yourself with genuine awe, how has this 6-ton iron monument stood absolutely defiant against the elements for 1,600 years? Seriously, think about it. If you leave a modern steel tool out in the yard, it starts rusting in a matter of days. Yet, this ancient pillar has endured Delhi's scorching summer heat, the punishing monsoons, and shifting climates with practically zero significant rusting. It's wild.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is what happens when you look closely at the shaft of the pillar. You'll see this beautifully preserved ancient Sanskrit inscription, and it's written in the Gupta Brahmi script. Acting as your local historian and translator for the day, I can tell you that this text actually reveals who built it. The pillar was commissioned by King Chandragupta II, who ruled way back around the 4th century CE.
But why on earth was it built? Well, the inscription tells us it was originally erected at a place called Vishnupadagiri, which beautifully translates to the hill of Vishnu's footprint. You see, this wasn't just some powerful king showing off his wealth or trying to do an engineering flex, it actually served as a devotional flagpost to Lord Vishnu. It represents this incredible holistic worldview, where science and spirituality were completely inseparable. The ancient craftsmen weren't just metalworkers. Their mastery over matter was totally aligned with divine devotion and purpose.
So, the crucial point is, to understand this rust-defying marvel, we have to look at its highly intentional chemistry. The pillar is made of nearly pure wrought iron, sure, but it contains an exceptionally high phosphorus content, around 0.18%. Now, modern iron making uses limestone to specifically remove phosphorus into the slag. But skipping the limestone in their furnaces? That was a genius move. These ancient smiths used wood charcoal instead, purposefully preserving that phosphorus. And they didn't just cast this giant thing in one go. They built it by painstakingly forge welding small iron blooms together, piece by piece.
And that specific chemistry, that's the actual magic behind the rustless wonder. Through centuries of alternate wetting and drying in the atmosphere, the high phosphorus catalyzed the formation of a very complex chemical layer. It's called crystalline iron 3 hydrogen phosphate hydrate. I know, a bit of a mouthful. But basically, it's a naturally forming, protective passive film that literally shields the metal from further atmospheric decay. It acts like a force field. This is a metallurgical feat that modern science literally took decades to even begin to understand.
Now pivot with me on our tour here and look about 4 meters up the shaft of the pillar. You'll see a physical scar. I want you to imagine, just for a second, what happens when you fire a literal cannonball at close range into a 1,600-year-old pillar. Naturally, you'd expect the whole thing to just shatter into 1,000 pieces, right?
Well, history actually gave us the answer to that. In 1739, Nadir Shah invaded Delhi and directly ordered the monument's destruction. They rolled up a cannon and fired it right at the pillar. And yes, it left a severe indentation, and it caused some horizontal fissuring on the opposite side. But get this, the pillar didn't break. The brilliant, ancient forge-welded structure simply absorbed that massive kinetic shock, remaining entirely intact against devastating modern artillery. Incredible.
Let's move to and see how this builds. Zooming out from Delhi, we can see that this pillar wasn't just some lucky fluke. This ancient civilization was an empire of advanced science. Look at Wootz steel from South India, for instance. That's an ultra-high carbon alloy dating way back to 300 BCE that became legendary worldwide as Damascus steel.
Or take the Konark Sun Temple beams, which utilized seamless hollow bar forging welding to survive centuries of harsh, salty coastal winds. Let's look a bit closer at those Konark Temple beams. Built over 8 centuries ago, the ancient artisans there took iron, forged it into small pieces, and literally arranged them side by side like bricks in a wall. Then, they inserted them into a hollow quadrilateral iron bar and forge welded them all together. After that, they polished the upper surface until the joints completely vanished. You couldn't even see a seam.
And this brilliantly illustrates why this matters today. In 1926, an engineer named Newton Friend decided to set up the ultimate scientific showdown to test this ancient superiority. He took samples of the ancient Konark iron and compared them directly against modern 20th century military-grade steel. He subjected both samples to 1 full year of rigorous wet and dry atmospheric tests, followed by an entire year completely submerged in artificial seawater.
The results? Absolutely mind-blowing. After 2 years of brutal, non-stop testing, the modern mild steel had completely deteriorated. It was gone. But the ancient Konark iron? It retained an astonishing 89.3% of its original structure. Let that sink in. The ancient techniques outperformed modern military steel by a massive, undeniable margin. So, as we wrap up our tour today, we're left with a really profound thought. The ancient Indians didn't just build to conquer, they built to endure. They harmonized their immense technical knowledge with the natural world and their deepest spiritual beliefs. It forces us to ask, how can we reintegrate this ancient philosophy, where craftsmanship, sustainability, and spirituality are one, into our fast-paced, modern, industrialized world? What have we lost in our rush to modernization, and what can we still learn from the masters of the past? Thank you so much for exploring this with me today. And remember, keep questioning the history you think you know.